Paula and Brian have been married for 10 years. Brian's a staff sergeant in the Army, and Paula stays at home with their children. After Brian's second tour in Iraq, the marriage was on the brink of collapse.
Hello. You must be Paula and Brian.
How are you?
Thanks for coming in today. Please, take a seat. For the most part, what we discuss is covered by confidentiality. So you can rest assured that I'm not discussing your case outside of our sessions. That being said, there are some exceptions to confidentiality mandated by the state as well as the military.
What do you mean by exceptions? Are you going to be discussing this with my captain?
Not necessarily. An example of exceptions to confidentiality would be the state's requirement that I report instances of child abuse. Since we're here for marital counseling instead of individual counseling, I don't see those issues as being a factor. But I wanted to fully disclose before we begin. The informed consent papers I'll be providing today will go into the how confidentiality works more fully. Okay? So let's begin with what brought you into counseling.
Well, as I mentioned on the phone to you, we've been struggling in our marriage for a while now, and one of the other wives told me that she's been through a similar situation and there were resources available to us. Brian told the doctor on base about filing for a divorce and the stress and anxiety he's been feeling, and thankfully it was not difficult to get through the red tape so we could come here.
I'm glad you got a referral to get some counseling. Can you tell me more about how your marriage is struggling?
Well, as she said, I recently filed for divorce because I found out she was having an affair with an officer from the medical corps. I came across an email between Paula and him.
I know the affair was a mistake, and I feel terrible about it. But I've apologized so many times. I know it's no excuse for cheating, but I felt so starved for attention from my husband. I felt like he wasn't even there when we're in the same room. And it's been this way since his first tour in Iraq.
Brian, how do you feel about what Paula said?
I don't think my time in Iraq has anything to do with this. I feel fine. Plus, I don't want to get into this whole counseling thing. I'm afraid it's going to affect my career. Besides, if you tell my CEO that I have post-traumatic stress disorder, he's going to think I'm faking it just to get out of the next deployment.
I think he has been affected by his time in Iraq. He has nightmares about almost being blown up and about his two buddies that were killed. And he's been drinking a lot more than usual, which says a lot.
What do you mean by that, Paula?
He's always had a drinking problem, but it's gotten worse.
Look, she's making way too big a deal out of it. When I was a kid, my dad was in the service and he drank a bit to let off steam, and he never needed counseling.